move the chairs, but we are
Yeah.
all good.
All right.
All right. Thank you for coming. I
Hey.
appreciate having you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Thank you.
Good to have
Thank
this
you.
time with you, brother.
Yes, sir. This is the next episode of our Behind the Desk series. Again, great to have you. And I think we should start off pretty easy today.
Okay.
We're just going to ask a couple questions. I'll start with taking a look back at your student days. So, what was one of your favorite memories as a student when you attended Sac State?
So I have a lot of great memories being at Sac State. I lived in the residence halls in Jenkins Hall. Shout out to folks from Jenkins or from any of the brick buildings. You know what I'm talking about.
Do you remember your room number?
101. Yep. Jenkins
If you're in 101.
Yep. If you're 101, you're lucky, right? Or maybe not. I'm not sure. But I also was part of student government and really enjoyed my time doing that. I became part of a fraternity. Had amazing professors, but probably the most important moment of being at Sac State was meeting my wife. I met her here on October 27, 2003. I was in the Union, and there's the eatery, the Nest area, and so I was sitting at a table with my friend, and she was sitting at a different table, and we both saw her at the same time, and we're like immediately, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful, right? And so he said, hey man, do you know who she is? I said, no, man. And I said, do you know who she is? He said, no, I don't. And I said, man, I don't know who she is, but I'm gonna marry that girl. And no joke, walked up to her. I introduced myself. I walked her to class, and I like to say that she's been stuck with me ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah. Great to hear that. That's awesome. So I think it's good we started off light like that because these next few questions are gonna be stuff students really want to hear about.
Okay, let's do it.
I think we should move into the most pressing issue right now, and that's the on-campus housing requirement for next year.
Yeah.
As we know, our incoming freshmen and sophomores will be living on campus next year. The students right now are kind of confused as to why we're making this change, and I think they would really appreciate hearing from you the reasons why we're making these changes.
Yeah, I mean, actually, there's a number of reasons. So let me just start out by saying that we have a high population of students at Sacramento State who struggle with food and housing insecurity, who don't know where their next meal is going to come from and don't know where they're going to lay their head at night. And we have a massive waiting list in housing for students who want to be able to stay on campus, but we simply don't have the capacity currently, which is why we're building 2 new residence halls right now. We've got Mount Whitney that's being built right now. We've also got Hornet Place next to Hornet Commons, and also an RFP that's out for the local area. But what it really comes down to is addressing basic needs issues for students by knowing that we're going to have housing for them. And the second part of it is around student success. So there is a ton of research that focuses on what it takes for a student to be successful in college, and campuses that have live-on requirements and have housing that supports students, the students graduate at much higher rates. The Cal State system has had studies on this. There has been a number of institutions within our own current system that have live-on requirements. So this is also a normal thing. And what it does is, as a student who's a commuter student, when you go home, like you go home.
Yeah.
Right? But when you live on campus, you don't really go home, right? You go home to academic advising and tutoring and supplemental instruction and residence hall advisors and connection to be able to go to the Union to different events or whatever is taking place on campus. And you're constantly learning, you're constantly growing, you're constantly developing. And as a result, students graduate at way higher rates. And we have even data here locally that shows that. So it's about student success. It's about basic needs and making sure that we're providing for our students. When I first got here, Sac State, I had so many students when I did the listening sessions who talked to me about living in their cars, who talked to me about the challenges that they were experiencing. And we made a commitment early on that we were going to address that. And I realized that it's not a decision that everyone likes, but I hope it's a decision that they at least respect. The idea that we want to address basic needs, to increase our graduation rates, and to make sure that our students are getting the support that they need. So it's done with the intentions of trying to bring us into the next phase of our evolution.
Yeah, totally understandable. And I think students hearing that from you will definitely agree with that, but their most important concern is probably affordability.
Yeah.
So what could you say to them, the students who feel like maybe a sophomore or a senior in high school is watching this right now and they want to attend Sac State, but they don't know if they're going to be able to afford living on campus? What would you say to somebody like them?
Well, first of all, I would say let's also, before we even get to affordability, which I definitely want to address, let's just address who would actually be covered by this, because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Yeah, totally.
So first, it's for students who are beginning as freshmen or frosh, right, in 2026, who live at 50 miles or further away from Sacramento State.
Yes.
So if you're in the local area, this does not apply to you, right? This is for individuals who are spending more time on the road than they probably are in class, right? And we got to make sure that we're able to serve them and provide them with a place to live. And I got to tell you, it's been a very positive response, particularly from parents from Southern California who want their students to be able to have an opportunity to be able to live on campus. And this now makes it so that, hey, having a live-on requirement helps them to address that concern. But in terms of affordability, you know, we work to make sure that our rates are as low as possible. Yeah. And our students, there are many apartment complexes in our local area that gouge our students and take advantage of them. And so at university, we can do scale. So by having a live-on requirement, it actually allows us to better control the market in our local area for our students and keep costs lower, not higher.
Gotcha.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is I think people forget about all the things that come with living on campus. You don't pay for your electricity, right? You don't pay for your food because it's part of your meal plan, right? You don't pay for Wi-Fi. You don't pay for water and sewer and all the things that you would have to be paying for if you're living in an apartment or you're living in a house, right? So we're taking care of a lot of costs that people don't fully realize, and it's actually what keeps it lower. And so here's a perfect example. So I lived on campus when I was a freshman here, Sacramento State.
Me as well. I live on campus right now.
Really? Okay, where do you live?
I live in, suddenly I'm blanking on the name right here.
AMC?
The AMC, yeah.
AMC, okay. AMC. So you got one of the nice halls, right?
Yes, thankfully.
All right.
And I lived in Sierra last year as well, so
okay.
I think
you've been spoiled.
Yeah, I think I got some pretty good rooms.
Right, shout out to, again, folks in the brick buildings, right? That's my home. But all jokes aside, when I was a freshman here, I lived on campus. Sophomore year, we didn't have enough residence halls for us to stay, right?
Really?
So yeah, because it was just a few of the buildings that we have now. So that meant that in your sophomore year, you had to move off campus. So my first part of my sophomore year, I moved off campus. I had an apartment, but I didn't have electricity because I couldn't afford the electricity. So I took my financial aid. I paid for basically 6 months up front. So I had a place to go, but I couldn't do schoolwork there. I only could really go and do things, during the day. Yeah. Because I had a fridge that basically couldn't turn on because I didn't have electricity. Wow. I didn't have power, so we had candles, right? And that's how we basically got things done. And at the same time, we had a great time, right? We enjoyed our experience. It was, in being there, but like there's a lot of costs that people don't realize that the university covers when they live on campus. So actually we are a more affordable option. And the other thing to keep in mind is with Mount Whitney, the whole point of that complex is we got 285 beds that are specifically low income affordable housing. That's like the whole point of doing this, is to help make it more affordable and to provide more support to our students, not take away it.
I think we should shift now a little bit to our post-game concerts that we had this year.
Yeah. Did you go to a concert?
Working in the Hornet Heartbeat, I was at every concert.
Okay, so, all right. And I knew the answer to that question.
Yeah. It was, in my opinion, it was really fun. I enjoyed the concerts thoroughly, but there's a couple students who may not feel that way. Even after the success of Quavo and Blast and how fun those concerts were, students are still wondering why we use some of our funds towards things like concerts when we could be using those funds towards things like preventing class cuts or maybe upgrading the facilities on campus and restoring things of that nature. So can you kind of explain how these financial decisions are made and what the thought process is and if it affects any of our academics?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, totally different pots of money, right? So instead of just having, hey, I can just use it to buy anything and do anything for the campus, you actually have different buckets of money. You have money that comes from the state, right? You have money that comes from the lottery. You have student fee dollars. All those monies have to be spent differently.
Gotcha.
So I think a lot of times people think you've got one big bucket of money. It doesn't actually work like that.
Okay.
And actually, it would make it a lot easier if it did. It's just, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So the monies that are being used for this are student fee dollars. Student fee dollars have very specific uses, and those are approved when that fee is approved, and it can't be used for anything differently.
Gotcha.
And we're actually regularly, annually audited by the state to make sure that we're using them for the intended purpose. So,
Gotcha.
So that brings us down to, okay, so what are those dollars? Those dollars are dollars that are used for student life, right?
Gotcha.
To create a positive experience for students on campus. So it's the same bucket of money that pays for Nest Fest. That last year we had the carnival, the Mario Kart races, the black light party, the silent disco. We just basically took that bucket of money and used it differently because we thought it could benefit more students. And certainly, if you look at the number of students who came to the concerts, right, it served thousands and thousands of students. And last year, it served a lot fewer students. So the whole point was to take dollars and have it make sure that it was reaching more students, and we're also building out a student life. Now, the other part of it is, people might say, well, why have a student life, right? We could just be a campus where we just offer classes and people go home. But if we're trying to be the best university in the country, you have to have a student life component that goes along with it. And it goes, again, actually back to research. So there is a lot of work that's been done in higher ed that says that you have to have two different things for a student to be successful: quality academics and quality student life.
Gotcha.
Because those two things create that sense of belonging, create a connection to the campus, create those memorable experiences that make it so that you have a connection to the campus, and you're more likely to succeed. So it's actually, and people might say, wait, so you're saying that having concerts increases graduation rates? Well, not directly, but indirectly, because you're like at a place that like things are happening that you want to be at. And so I'm proud that we're doing the concerts, but I also think that it's important for people to know the concerts are a response to what the students asked for. Too. So Operation Lit, if you haven't heard of that, was we had our staff members here at Sacramento State did focus groups and surveys with students, asking them how they wanted those dollars spent. And one of the things that they talked about was high profile events, and they wanted to see more musical options on campus. So we did those concerts in response to what the students wanted to see. And of course, not every student is going to agree with every decision. But my hope is that rather than expressing concern around how those dollars were spent, my hope is that students would say, give us some input on what you want to see. The other thing I have to say here that's I think very important is everything we're doing here is normal. Live on requirement, that's normal. Having concerts on campus, that's normal. Promoting athletics, that's normal. Sacramento State is going through a change. And I think that that's part of where some of the concern is that we are going into becoming a flagship institution. We're going to be an institution where 5 years from now, no matter where you are in the country, you've heard of Sacramento State, and it's an option that you've considered. Why do that? It increases the quality of the degree, it increases the value of the degree in the marketplace. And so, yes, we have been doing things that are not normal for Sacramento State, but they're normal for places like San Diego State, Ohio State, Arizona State. We're actively trying to elevate the campus and become a national brand, so that that national brand has an impact for students at the local level. But I think that if you look at the number of students who were impacted, what I hear more so from students, I don't actually hear a lot of direct concerns from students about the concerts. You know what happens more often? I have people walk up to me and say, hey, can you bring X artists? Can you bring X? They're more excited about who we can bring next, right? And I think that that's a good thing, because we want students to be able to have input in who the next round of artists will be. And that's foreshadowing, right? We got some cool stuff coming up for next year. We're just getting started.
All right. Since we're on the topic of post-game concerts, I think we should shift to athletics as a whole. This last year, we've brought in Shaq, Brandon Marion, Mike Bibby. We got a brand new revamped football team. Our women's basketball team is shining this year.
Yep.
We've got a brand new stadium that's, at least hearing talks of a brand new stadium that could be coming to Sac State pretty soon. From an outsider's perspective and what we see online and on social media, it looks like we push a lot for our athletics, and some students feel that we may not be pushing enough for them, the student body. How would you respond to these students, and are we using enough for our academics?
Yeah, I mean, so one very important thing about athletics, the facilities, it goes back to how we can spend dollars as a campus. The money that is being used for the stadium is money that can only be used for athletic facilities.
Understandable, okay.
Right? It cannot be used for any other purpose other than facilities. So
Like the concerts?
Yeah, they couldn't even be used for the concerts,
Got
right?
it.
So it couldn't be used for concerts, can't be used for classes, can't be used to restore the library. It is money that is specifically was supported by students only for athletic facilities. So if I was to take and use it for a different purpose, one, we would get audited by the state for it, but then also it would be us giving a false promise to students, right? You're paying for this, but we're going to use it for something else,
Gotcha.
which is not ethical. So we've got that money, and it could be used to not build a stadium. It could be used for any other athletic facility, but it has to be used for athletics. So
Understandable.
That's first thing. Second thing, we're using athletics really as the what they call the front porch or front door to the university. It markets the university, right? When people talk about Sacramento State, they know we've got great academic programs, right? We've got a great College of Engineering, we've got a great College of Business, great Health and Human Services, great public policy, political science. I mean, I could go across, but we got great programs here. But when people talk about Sacramento State in the community, oftentimes athletics is their entryway into the university. If you think about an alumni who's going to come back and get re-engaged, you think about a donor who's going to give us money, you think about a student who is looking to apply and they're going to go to an event on campus, most likely they're going to come to an athletic event. And so we do emphasize it for that reason. But remember, 70% of our budget as a university is academic affairs.
Really? I don't know if people have heard that before. You said 70%?
70% of the budget, right? So that means that all the other divisions, all the other things we do with enrollment, with financial aid, with student life, all with the facilities, the chairs we're sitting in, all that comes out of the 30%. And so we actually don't have a lot of resources to do what we're doing. So we're trying to use them strategically, and we're trying to use athletics as activator events. So when people think about a football game, they think about it as a football game. It's not a football game, right? People think it's a football game. It's not a football game.
What is it then?
It's an alumni engagement event.
Gotcha.
It's a community engagement where we're doing canned food drives and supporting local nonprofits. We're having students who are coming from high schools who are signing intent to enroll and coming to Sacramento State. We're engaging alumni who may have not been engaged by the campus in some time. So it's an activator event that's basically being used for multiple purposes at the same time because we don't have a lot of resources.
Gotcha.
The other thing I think is important, people need to know academics is our priority here. Unquestionably. Yes, there's a lot of media that focuses on athletics, but if you look at like what I talk about, the vast majority of where I spend my time, it's not on athletics, it's on academics, right?
Gotcha.
It's focusing on how can we get more classes for students. It's focused on how can we make sure that we are addressing issues with financial aid. It's focused on the things that I think students are actually concerned with, but what gets picked up in the media is not reflective of that.
Yeah.
We've never had more students wanting to be at Sacramento State. Our applications are way up, almost 16% up our applications for upcoming fall semester, right? We have the highest graduation rate in the university's history. We have the largest enrollment in the university's history. We just opened up the Black Honors College, and now it's over 430 students. We just opened up Latu Native American College. We've got Combat U. We're building a campus downtown. Like, we've got Shaq and Mike Bibby and all these amazing people who are associated with the campus. Like, catch us on the upswing. And that doesn't mean that every single decision we make is going to be one that people agree with, but I hope that they see that our intention is to make it so that we're elevating Sacramento State so that when our students graduate from this institution, people, no matter where they are in the country, like, oh, I know Sacramento State because they have X, and that makes it so that you're more likely to get a job, more likely to make more money to better support your family.
I think I can agree with that for sure. Personally, I think that we are definitely moving in the right direction. I think that we're on the come up, and I'm looking forward to being able to say I attended Sac State. So I think we're doing pretty good. Finally, the last question I have for you. Where's Shaq at? Like, why haven't we seen him yet? Like, where is he at? Like, as students, we saw Shaq last summer. Where is he? Like, we want to see him.
Yeah, I can say Shaq will be here.
Okay.
He has been actually incredibly supportive of our efforts as a campus. As you know, he's serving as the general manager to our basketball program. He has been very involved with our donors and helping us to raise money. And I think it's important to know that he's volunteering his time to Sacramento State to help us do better in serving our students. How fortunate are we that he's doing that, you know? And so, yes, he will be here.
Cool.
And, you know, all I can say is make sure you show up to the basketball games.
All right, for sure. You heard it here first. Well, thank you so much one more time. This was the latest episode of Behind the Desk, and thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Stingers up.
Stingers up.